Council Roundup brought to you each and every week by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch, also open on Saturdays, and don't forget about delivery. Head West Subs. So I was off last week, and they had a committee of the whole, and this week they had a full council meeting, where they had led ordinances that were on final passage, and they passed them. So we're not necessarily going to go piece by piece into those particular ordinances, though they are important because a lot of it's spending your tax resources. But one thing that was discussed last week and this week dealt with how to handle those experiencing homelessness, especially after we had the Christmas Eve fire. That's considered the largest structure fire in Springfield in quite some time. And again, if you're joining us watching online, you can see just that severity of the fire in the old Goodwill Sorting Center that was all an entire block of 11th and Enos. And it's speculated and then later confirmed that there were squatters in there, people who were homeless, taking some refuge inside a vacant building because of the immense freezing conditions that we had during that holiday period. You look out right now, and it's warm, considering it's not 30 degrees below zero overnight. But with mild conditions, you might not be thinking about this. But even when that fire erupted, it very much was something top of mind for a lot of people, and how we deal with those experiencing homelessness. So that came up last week at the Springfield City Council, where Alderman Ralph Hanauer, he laid out his concerns about just what's going on with the homeless population and how to deal with this. And this is from last week, where Alderman Hanauer talked about how we need to get to the bottom of this.
We've got these homeless advocates that are out there, and if you read the articles, it makes you lead to believe that they knew people are they're squatting in some of these places. To me, it's their responsibility to let us know, or let the police know, or whatever, to get them out, because what we don't want is, in this case, we didn't know how many people were in there. I mean, we could have lost 10 people or whatever. And then secondly, we don't want our firefighters to roll in and, they're guessing, so they're trying to go in and out. That's how we get people hurt or killed. And to me, it's their responsibility to let us know about when they know where people, if they're given bags or whatever and they're going there, they know people are squatting there.
So he's really looking for those who are already staffed to deal with outreach of those experiencing homelessness. Where are they at in these instances of knowing if people are going into vacant buildings, especially when we have sub-zero temperatures as we had on Christmas Eve, leading to somebody going into a vacant building, starting a fire to keep warm, and then things get out of control, and you've got resources having to be spent to search for the possibility of people dead inside these vacant buildings that are burned out. And it's not a fun topic to have to talk about, but that's exactly the types of things that Springfield City Council and city councils across the country are having to contend with. More from Alderman Hanauer from last week.
I wanted more money for us to tear down vacant buildings, because the people get in and squat in them. They build a fire because they get cold. The building catches fire. Our firefighters have to come in, and then they go in to try to help them. And some of these buildings are not. There's no way they can be rehabbed.
So again, that was from last week. Alderman Ralph Hanauer just raising some of those concerns. This week, a full city council meeting. One of the issues was around $400,000 for the Salvation Army to deal with this issue some more. But they also had Josh Sabo. He is a local advocate for addressing homelessness and working to develop partnerships with the city, the county, and various nonprofit groups. And Sabo, in front of the Springfield City Council last night, laying out some of the latest that he has to propose for how to address this issue.
We want to reach functional zero. which means that if a person experiences homelessness in our community, we want to be able to wrap the supports and services around them to help them end their homelessness within 30 days.
And Josh continues,
is that right now, the number of people who are experiencing homelessness in our community beyond what we currently have services to meet is growing by around 155 people per year. And so the urgency, the need to really address this issue in an effective way continues to grow.
So you can see that this is an issue that's not going to go away, and it needs resources to address homelessness. Josh, he lays out what some of the proposals are that hopefully we can get everybody on board with, he says. So he lays out at least one of those proposals, talks some more about numbers and the needs and the staffing and so on.
The first core strategy is to create new supportive housing opportunities to help people end their homelessness. What we do know about homelessness is that it's a complex issue, but at the end of the day, it's housing that ultimately ends homelessness. And when we talk about housing, we're talking about supportive housing. Housing that includes a rental subsidy, but also includes case management, connection to other services that help a person stabilize and address whatever challenges and barriers they may have in their life and ultimately to thrive.
So what about the numbers? You know, we heard about 1,500 people they know in their database and how it's growing, a certain number every year. It's a problem that's not going away, but how do we get to the root of this? What are the numbers that we're looking on, lay it out there on the table, Josh?
There are 1,142 people who are active in our database. Inside of that, our community only has 230 permanent housing opportunities. So that means permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, a few other voucher-based type of solutions. So the need for housing far outweighs what we have available for people.
And he talks about other needs.
We need to create 765 housing opportunities over the course of the next 5 years. So to put that in scale, currently we have 230. We need to build 765 over the next 5 years.
That's not an easy task, and that's going to take a lot of resources. And Josh Sabo talking about the staff that he has already on it, trying to connect people with these services.
Our community housing navigator is staffed at Helping Hands, and Nick Dodson's here with us. Hey, Nick. He's done a tremendous job helping people connect with housing opportunities, engaging landlords, getting landlords to utilize vouchers. We've seen a lot of success through that.
And Sabo also talking about how these dollars that are coming in from the federal government, from the America Rescue Plan Act, COVID-19 relief dollars, mind you, being used to address homelessness. He lays out what those dollars are going to be used for and how much is available.
Yeah, so when we talk about 765 housing opportunities, those $2.4 million could create 40 of some of the most challenging housing opportunities for our community to develop.
But that's not the entirety of all the housing that they need. 40 some odd housing from 2.4 million when he said that they need 700 plus of these types of housing options for those experiencing homelessness. He also talks about, some of the things moving forward in their proposal, a new board to help manage some of these resources.
And so the Lived Experience Advisory Board will be a board, and it'll be where people will be compensated for their time, but will have a leadership stake in helping our community to scale these solutions and bring them to bear. And then the Housing Task Force is connected to that first strategy. If we're going to create 765 housing opportunities, we're going to really need to collaborate, build partnerships, and really put in an incredible amount of effort to not only find units, but figure out how to support landlords who make those units available and support the agencies who are providing services in those units.
But that teamwork, it's going to have to go beyond just this new board that's created. You're going to have to bring in teams from all around, not just from the city, not just from nonprofits, but also from the county.
We would love for the city and the county to formally adopt this plan as your plan to address homelessness over the course of the next 5 years. We'd love for you to support the development of Heartland House as the backbone organization for reaching the goals of this plan. The county has, we've put together a budget for $625,000 to include staff, to include training for organizations, the Lived Experience Advisory Board, and other components. So the county has committed 40%, Capital Township has committed 20%, and we would ask the city to match the county at 40%.
So how much are they asking for? What are some of the questions that Alder people have? We'll get to that and more here with the Council Roundup. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk. The Council Roundup brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch. Head west. All right, back with the Council Roundup, brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. Their downtown location open for lunch, Head West Subs. And let's get back to the conversation last night at the full Springfield City Council, where they had Josh Sabo there, somebody who's helping organize the efforts to try to combat homelessness in Springfield. And Alderman Ralph Hanauer last night asking a series of questions. Here is Alderman Hanauer laying out just some of his concerns about, there's a lot of resources that are going to be available, but what do you do with people who don't want that help? Here he is.
Have any rules? They don't want to follow anything. They want to live their life free and easy, whatever. But
sure.
I just am concerned about the ones that either they're mentally ill, they don't want help from anybody. They want to do their thing. And
Sabo talking about, yes, indeed, that is a problem that there is.
And is that something
those who can't, find the right resources to get the help they need? And Alderwoman Conley, she's chiming in here to talk about that issue in particular and other things that deal with low barrier shelters. And those are the shelters where they don't have strict requirements of being sober or showing up at a specific time. They're low barriers of entry to allow for people who don't necessarily want that wraparound type service but need to get out of the extreme elements.
And is that something that we can really start, feeding into? I mean, we're looking at a $400,000 grant for Salvation Army to run our existing emergency shelter. Is the plan that those funds will be used and that's going to work into this program so that we're going to see this, where we are right now, will springboard into this system?
Sabo responding to Connolly's question.
So a lot of that has already been done and already in motion, and I think is well prepared to make a seamless transition into what's next.
So we've got the questions of other grants and other teams that are going to be offering up various services, and Sabo continues to provide some context of their plans.
I think part of the challenge, right? We have a plan. We're excited about having a plan, but we have no desire to sit here for a year ago and say, hey, but we still have a plan. I mean, we want to see things get done, and so these material, having resources actually come to bear so that we can actually create these housing opportunities is the next thing we have to get to work doing as soon as we can staff up. And
others also chiming in, including Alderman Donnellan, about resources that are going to be available.
I want to be clear of the amount. You're asking the city this evening to consider putting in our budget, and I don't have my glasses, but I'm just trying to focus in here, $250,000 for the next budget, right?
Right.
Is that in the draft budget, Mr. McCarty?
But we are still working with OPED to finalize a couple of final things, which we hope to do tomorrow.
Fair enough.
So it's a good thing we're having this meeting tonight.
Yeah. So Alderman McMiniman, he's got some questions that he wants answered about the money and how that's going to be spent, but also who's going to be involved in making the decisions to spend those tax resources. Here is Alderman McMiniman laying out some of those questions.
I think part of the challenge, right? We have a plan. We're excited about having a plan.
I want to be clear of the amount. You're asking
we'll get
the
to it,
city this.
All right, here we are. All right, let's move over here to Alderman McMiniman. All right, here we go.
This is the strategy board for the Heartland Housed entity that's been developed, and
you're asking for an annual budget of $650,000. Would this budget be managed by Continuum of Care?
it would be managed by the strategy board.
So a board of sorts to help deal with the homeless population and the strategy board. How would they be comprised? Who would be on this board? How would they be paid?
It's the strategy board for the Heartland Housed entity that's been developed, and that entity is seeking nonprofit status, to establish the Continuum of Care has never been a 501c3, so there's always been fiscal agents and things like that in order to get things done. So this allows us to streamline a lot of that.
But McMiniman continues with his questions about how exactly this is going to be managed.
Have you broken up the $625,000 into position titles and that kind of thing?
We do have a budget, so it's not all staff. It includes training and doing those types of things so that we can provide services for enhance what agencies are able to do. I don't have it in front of me, but it includes doing some of the consulting work that we need to do to sort of improve the system and try to bring it up to speed quickly, rental for offices, all that type of stuff.
More from Alderman McMiniman about the questions of management of these resources.
Does Mayor Langfelder get involved in hiring of those persons? Of course not. Does the county chair get involved in that? Of course not. So who's going to be the hands-on manager of that money?
It's a good question. Who is going to manage that money? Who's going to be the one dealing with those hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Who's going to be the hands-on manager of that money? The person, the top manager, the person that manages that money.
Okay. Yeah, the chair of the committee is Kim Mobley over here. So the executive committee is Kim Mobley, Val Yazel, Dominic Watson, and Tim Howarth.
So that's who's going to compromise this or be composing this board. Sabo also talking about various costs.
I think Alderman McMiniman, part of when we talk about creating those 765 housing opportunities, there is a significant amount of funding that will be needed to do that, right? So that's again, 2.4 million or 2 million could get us those 40 housing opportunities. So it gives you a sense of how much that's going to cost to really meet the goals in the plan. And the funding sources are going to have to be diverse. We're going to have to go after as much federal funding as we can, state funding, but then we're also going to have to, the work of the strategy board is to really align any community funding in the direction of this goal too. So
still more to come. We've got a few more things to tackle when it comes to how the city is looking to deal with the homeless population, especially after that large fire on Christmas Eve, and the temperatures getting really low and people getting into vacant buildings and the problems that are a result of that. So we'll hear a little bit more of that. But then we'll get into questions about Legacy Point Sports Complex. We've heard a lot about that. And a year ago, year and a half ago, 10 years ago, the possibility of a similar type of sports complex. But Alderman Hanauer, he wants some answers on a timeline of when this is actually going to come together. So we'll get to that coming up here with the Council Roundup. I am late for... All right, back with Springfield's Morning News. It is the Council Roundup brought to you by Head West Subs. When you want a great sub, you've got to head west. A few other things to get to from last night's full Springfield City Council meeting. And a lot of the conversation was about how to deal with homelessness. And Alderman Joe McMiniman having a series of questions that he had for Josh Sabo from a local community group that's working to bring resources together to deal with homelessness. Alderman McMiniman chiming in to talk about the current lay of the land when it comes to the amount of shelters that there are. Here is Alderman McMiniman laying out some of his ongoing questions.
We have, at last count, some 13 various types of shelters of different kinds within the city, and we need someone who's going to be responsible for kind of assessing all of those shelters and deciding whether the money is well spent and who's making progress and who hasn't. Some really tough management is needed out there.
So, a lot of different shelters already in operation. And how do you go about bringing all those resources together to ensure that we've got the staffing and the resources necessary to deal with this issue? Here is now the Salvation Army, who is in line to get around $400,000 from the city of Springfield to operate one of those shelters.
And so the agenda item is talking about funding the shelter that we've been running. I think we took a great step forward when we went to year-round instead of just over the winter. I think that made a huge difference, and we saw the results.
And the results are that you have people who do get resources and the help they need from the Salvation Army, even when it's not really that cold out in the summertime, for instance.
Over the winter, I think that made a huge difference. And we saw the results over the summer when we were averaging 35, 40 people a month. We've always assumed in the past that the summer is okay and people can go out, but we've shown that that's not true. And so we're really glad to be part of this system and to be part of the progress that's being made. And so, yeah, coming to you to ask for the ability to keep funding this through until the job's done.
Yeah, and is the job ever really going to be done? I think that's a big question that we all kind of know the answer to. Homelessness is not just a recent problem. It's a problem that's persistent.
Anytime it's been under 32 degrees, we've been open for sure, or if there's a storm of some kind. Otherwise, we focus on the afternoon hours when there's less places for people to go.
All right, so that was a little bit of the conversation about how to deal with homelessness in Springfield. Moving on to other city business, you had Alderman Hanauer raise a substantial question of something we've debated here and heard debated for months on end, a year plus, 2 years, and so on. It's the Legacy Point Sports Complex, where a lot of different taxes are being offered up to allow for building of this and giving resources to the building of this. But where is it exactly? Here is Alderman Ralph Hanauer.
Can we get an updated timeline on that? Because they've blown through the timeline they initially gave us. I happened to be in Lake of the Ozarks over the weekend. They have like a Legacy Point down there. And today they just announced that because it's been so popular and it's been bigger than they could imagine, they're doubling the size of it. And they're going to have it done by next year.
So
we keep hearing promises and promises and promises. I believe we have increased the tax, the hotel tax, correct? And now that tax is building up. I hope he doesn't think he's getting it right now because he hasn't done a dang thing to put a shovel in the ground.
So Alderman Hanauer wants some answers on a timeline. When is this actually going to be dealt with? When are we going to actually see some shovels in the ground to get this done? Corporation Counsel Jim Zirkle, he chimes in on kind of where we're at in this process.
I was going to say, I know they've been meeting with the various taxing bodies. I'm pretty certain they did reach an agreement with the school district in the last 60 days or so. We were told that they were working with the Park District, or it had some request or discussion. They're outside the current performance parameters. That's been explained to them verbally, and they understand that they have the obligation to produce reports and show what the, if you will, progress.
So are we going to hear more about this? Yes, absolutely. No question about it. And we'll, of course, bring you the latest here with the Council Roundup each and every Wednesday on WMAY. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. I'm Greg Bishop. Coming back, we will discuss an issue that's expected to come up at the Illinois State House with the Illinois Grape Growers and Vintners Alliance. So stay tuned. That's next here on WMAY.